Traveling on the Sabbath. Traveling on the Sabbath. We are reading in Testimonies for the Church, volume 6, page 359, paragraph 4, and it says, "If we desire the blessing promised to the obedient, we must observe the Sabbath more strictly. I fear that we often travel on this day when it might be avoided. In harmony with the light which the Lord has given in regard to the observance of the Sabbath, we should be more careful about traveling on the boats or cars on this day. In these matters, we should set a right example before our children and youth. In order to reach the churches that need our help and to give them the message that God desires them to hear, it may be necessary, says the inspiration, it may be necessary for us to travel on the Sabbath. But so far as possible, we should secure our tickets and make all necessary arrangements on some other day. When starting on a journey, we should make every possible effort to plan so as to avoid reaching our destination on the Sabbath. So here we see that the instruction in the spirit of prophecy is so plain and clear. If we desire the blessing pronounced to the obedient, we must observe the Sabbath more strictly. And the inspiration says, I fear that we often travel on this day when it might be avoided. We are told also in Testimonies for the Church, volume 6, page 360, paragraph 1, and it says, when compelled to travel on the Sabbath, when we are compelled to travel on the Sabbath, we should try to avoid the company of those who draw our attention, to worldly things. So sometimes we are compelled to travel on the Sabbath, and here is the counsel. We should try to avoid the company of those who do draw our attention to worldly things. And here we see that today in the church, these things are happening. Business stories are brought on the Sabbath. Worldly conversation are brought on the Sabbath day. When you read in the book of Isaiah 58 verse 13 and 14, it's very clear there. We need to keep the Sabbath strictly. And Isaiah chapter 52 verse 2 is very clear. Blessed is he, the man that keepeth the Sabbath. It's very clear. There's a blessing in keeping the Sabbath. So here we are taught to say, when compelled to travel on the Sabbath, we should try to avoid the company of those who would draw our attention to worldly things. We should keep our minds stayed upon God and commune with Him. So we should make sure that our minds are strictly dwelling upon holy things, upon God and His Word. We need to commune with Him, with our Heavenly Father. Whenever there is opportunity, we should speak to others in regard to the truth. So as we are traveling on the Sabbath, we are told very clear, if there is an opportunity, we should share the message to them because we are in the Sabbath if we are compelled to travel on the Sabbath day. So here we are told to say we should keep our minds stayed upon God and commune with Him. Whenever there is opportunity, we should speak to others in regard to the truth. We should always be ready to relieve suffering and to help those in need. In such cases, God desires that the knowledge and wisdom He has given us should be put to use. But we should not talk about matters of business or engage in any common world conversation. At all times and in all places, God requires us to prove our loyalty to Him by honoring the Sabbath. May the Lord help us, brothers and sisters, to keep the Sabbath more strictly, because this is the time that is going to determine either to be saved or to be destroyed.